Right, so here we are, everyone. We are now recording, and welcome to Henry, the Fiesta Club Racer.
Yep.
I think is your titles. We'll have all the stuff down below. But yeah, so Henry's kindly come to have a chat with us, all things motorsport and racing and Fiestas. So I suppose if you want to, just a little bit who you are, and a bit of an introduction to yourself, and then we'll crack on.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So, hi everyone. My name's Henry, or Fiesta _Club Racer on Instagram, as many of you probably be more familiar with. Been racing since 2009. Cut my teeth in sort of single make race series of the Mark II Golf racing when it was in its heydays in the sort of late noughties, which was a difficult place to learn a trade with a lot of learned drivers and ex Porsche Cup Super Cup scholarship drivers, WTCC drivers, and the likes of. But it was definitely where I learnt my trade, and from then a few other bits and bobs. Did Britcar 24-hour 2011 and 2012 with Cadwell Motorsport, Mark III Golf GTI, and then a Jag XF saloon, one that won its class at the Nürburgring 24-hour race in the diesel class. And then since then, a few bits and bobs. BMW M3 and 750 Motor Club Enduro. And then the last few years have been back in the hatchbacks in the Fiesta. So a bit of a wide range of stuff. That's
definitely a big level. Yeah, and a big sort of variation in the style of car, power delivery in a lot of ways, rear-wheel drive, front-wheel drive, and yeah, that's actually, I didn't realise you'd like Britcar and stuff like that. That's awesome, man. That's really awesome.
That was a lesson in itself. Yeah, quite a different level of motorsport and pedaling around a few grand Mark II Golf to having Ferrari 430s and stuff pedaling around you. Speed and all the rest.
They'd just be like, what's that? I'm going like, what?
It was like Starship Enterprise coming past you down Hanger Straight when you're in a little Mark III Golf. That's for sure. You felt vulnerable. That to the point you felt very vulnerable. Yeah.
I love it. Flipping heck, yeah. Because some of them things as well, they're so big, like the size of some of those GE cars, they're huge things, and you think little Mark III Golf and little box that you're going around in, and and
it wasn't the most. It was a bit of a rusty old heat, that Mark III. If you have an accident, you'd be being hoovered out the car rather than anything else. So.
Nice. Oh, I like it. That's that's very awesome. So it's been quite a journey for you. So what, like, growing up, did you have a big influence then in motorsport and in cars, or was it something that you just gravitated into yourself as you got older then?
It's a bit of I mean, my dad's always restored old cars. He's got some old 1950s Jowetts. Not so much motorsport enthusiast, just classic cars and stuff like that. So I've always played with cars from an early age, Skeletrics, all that kind of thing, and sort of early teens.
It's part of being a dad, isn't it, when you have a child getting scale electric? It's like Lego on scale electric. So
I think I really sort of got my interest in racing through remote control car racing in my early teens, where I sort of raced at club level and then national level, doing 10th touring car racing. And then when I quickly realised that the money being spent on that, you could probably go club racing and real racing.
So it can get ridiculous.
It's a bit of a transition there, but the real transition came. I've been good friends with a guy that runs a motorsport preparation company in Reading called JTech Automotive. Good friend of mine, and he'd raced golfs for a couple of years previously, and I'd helped him out building the car and so on and so forth. And an opportunity came up for a Mark II Golf for 150 quid off a friend that was a suitable start for a race car.
Absolutely. That was bargain.
Yeah, that was the start of that. That was back in the day when you could pick up a Mark II Golf for a few hundred quid.
Yeah, I remember I was a diesel I got for £200 every single year for the MOT. It cost 200 quid.
Yeah.
That was it every year. And I don't know why I got rid of it. Like I should have just had it. It was 200 quid every year. I knew how much it was going to cost me, and it worked. It was awesome. It was in Burgundy, like 5-door in Burgundy. It was fantastic and horrible at the same time. It was brilliant thing. But so it's quite I suppose you can sort of see that influence as you're kind of coming into RC cars. Did you sort of like, obviously it is quite a big jump going from like the 10th over to the club racing. Had you sort of like seen people around or been talking with people? That's how you kind of, or just one of those things you see it on the TV, you've got that interest and it's like, oh, I could do a bit of
that. You know, if you're interested in racing remote control cars, you know, the whole racing and competitiveness and being interested in cars in general was a good start. But, you know, it was, you know, years and years of watching early 90s touring cars and, you know, tin top racing. I was never that interested in Formula One and the open wheel stuff, you know, a bit more
That's
interested
like
in it
me
now.
and Andy.
Yeah, you know, tin top stuff.
Never watched it.
No, you know, tin top stuff and GT stuff's always definitely had much more of an interest for me. Bit more achievable, especially the tin top stuff. So that's pretty much what spurred the interest.
So and then with that, like the RC cars and what have you, because I know when I've looked at say like the drift cars and the other bits, you can get very technical in that. There's a lot of setup, a lot of modifications. And when I first started looking at these things, it blew my mind because I was just thinking, Toys R Us, like, you know, 100 quid if you want a nice one, and then like I started looking at them and seeing people in it, and I think that level of preparation kind of gets that sort of side of you going as well, because you are doing setups, you're trying to learn all the different characteristics. So I suppose in some ways you can kind of see that progression. Right?
Yeah, I mean, in many respects, you know, to the top level of 10th touring car racing, the setup and preparation and detail is you know, arguably higher than club level motorsport. You know, there's plenty more adjustments you can make to a remote control car than you can to a 90s hot hatch in many respects. You know, it's you know, certainly learnt a lot in terms of vehicle dynamics from, you know, specific setup changes even to remote control cars. You know, and it's not a lot of people believe or buy into that, but until you sort of do it, I suppose it's you know, definitely a realization for me.
Yeah, 100%. That's it's quite interesting.
I used to have I think it was a petrol remote control car, and me and my dad took it up to shopping centre near where I used to live, and because of interference from shopping centre, we're driving it straight along, and then it just veered off and smashed into the curb. And that would end of that anyway.
That lasted a long time, didn't it?
Sweep that off and put it back in a box.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love it. So yeah, when you started out, then I suppose obviously it's a few years ago now. Like you've been doing this for a while. Yeah, so what sort of 2009, Greg, yeah. So what sort of process did you go through? Obviously, you had the opportunity for the car. I'm assuming it wasn't a fully prepped car. It was, you know, you had to work on that, get your sort of license and everything. Like, as you were kind of going through, and we all think, okay, so I've got to get a car, I've got to put a roll cage in it, Was there anything that kind of surprised you a little bit? You weren't expecting, or did you just jump in and whatever happened, sort of?
Yeah, I mean, it's the normal questions people ask when they're wanting to get into racing.
Yeah,
how do you do it? How much does it cost? You know, and I think that, you know, the cost side, you know, put that to one side for the moment, because that's a, you know, different ball game in itself. Yeah, but in terms of process, you know, first and foremost is get yourself an ARDS pack from the MSA website.
Yeah.
Get yourself booked in for a medical, and once you've got your medical sorted, you can literally book in for your ARDS test, which is a case of going to a circuit, doing the test, and then you can send off for your license. It's literally that simple. Just from the license point alone, clubman licenses are very easy and accessible for a few hundred quid. You know, but the car side of it is you know, I was in my early 20s, and I had some sort of appreciation as to what went into building a race car. But you know, it's just you've got to jump in both feet at it, because if you had all the information to hand at the start, I think it would put a lot of people off. all the reading the regulations for a championship, because it can be quite intimidating. I
Yeah,
appreciate
the
fact that
non-glamorous things.
Yeah, reading regulations and the blue book and the fear
Unless
of
you're a nerd like
scrutineering, all that kind of thing. Like you say, luckily I was building the car off the back of knowing someone who who had done it. So knowing someone is a massive advantage. But for people who don't have access to that, going to club and events and just speaking to people and networking, it could become quite easy, especially the modern day of social media and stuff. Just having access to the information. It's just a case of a few seconds typing something on your phone or sending an email to a championship organizer and then being really helpful. So
yeah, you've even got your groups now, haven't you? Like you've got your different road sports groups, you've got your TDC groups and what have you. So there is a lot out there. And like you were saying, until you've got your license, there isn't really any point doing anything else anyway. So go get that. Yeah. Make sure that's all working it, and then, like you say, you progress as you go along.
Yeah.
But
the car itself wasn't it was a £150 Mark II 16-valve Golf. It had been in storage it's been in someone's garage for 7 years after it had stopped for whatever reason. So it was
quite a bit of work then,
and something like that, it's just a case of making sure I didn't go to town on it. I made sure it had a fresh-ish engine, the fueling system was okay, and it had the safety gear. Other than that, it was just stickers and making it look pretty and getting myself out on the grid, really.
Yeah. I suppose that's it. Like you've got to go and do it. Yes, if you were gonna do, you're gonna do the best engine build on it you can do. You're gonna do the best of it. You're probably never gonna get. It's gonna be that long that in reality that car now and that class probably, don't exist, or things have moved on, and you've missed that opportunity to do what you really want to do, and that's get out on the grid to some degree.
A lot of people get lost in the I want to go racing, need a brand new engine, need brand new brakes, need brand new tires. You can get on the grid fairly cheap. I mean, motorsport's never going to be cheap. Let's be honest. It's not a cheap sport. But you can get on the grid for sensible money. Are you going to be ultimately at the front of that grid? No, but should you be worried? It's your first, cutting your teeth in motorsport. You should be going out there, getting seat time, track time experience, learning the vehicle, learning the dynamics, learning the process of going racing. The last thing you want is the fear of smashing up a nicely prepared car first and foremost.
That's it. And also, like I say, being out at the front there and having that kind of battling as well, it's I imagine it's a hell of an experience the first time you're going into it.
Yeah. My first race meeting was Mallory Park in 2009, which is really glorified stock car racing. Let's be honest, Mallory Park's a bit of it, it's not the most glamorous place to go racing, but only having previous to then done probably 3 or 4 track days, that first time where you make contact with another car lightly and someone's trying to drive down the inside of you and you're having to learn driving off the line and with a group of other cars, it's definitely a baptism of fire. There's nothing you can do to prepare for that really, other than expose yourself to it in as a controlled manner as you possibly can.
Yeah, that's it. Well, so that's like your first race. You're going in, like you say, you've done a handful of track days. What did you find the preparation and the build up kind of like more, I suppose, nervous and what have you, or when you got in the car, when you was rolling onto that grid, like what kind of emotions were going through you? Or can you even remember then, because it was bloody ages ago?
I mean, once you go, there's 2 stages of stress and fear. The first one is getting your car ready in time, and getting it through that first.
Never known anybody to have plenty of time when they've done that.
Yeah, and it was more, if I can remember rightly, it was more nerve-wracking getting the car through scrutineering for the first time rather than on the grid. Because once all the scrutineering and stuff's done, you're like, right, clear, I can go racing today. That's not a problem. But having someone, learned looking over your car from a safety point of view is nerve-wracking. Even if, I'm fairly confident in my own work and own ability, but it just takes 1 second for someone to spot something they don't like and you're not going racing. So
and all of that preparation.
Yeah, so once that's over, it's all over, and you're going racing. I think it's definitely heightened sense of stress and excitement. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think a fair old mix of it, and adrenaline and all sorts of things going on.
But yeah, I can definitely remember being beside myself, nervous, anxious, and stressed up until the point where the red lights go out, and it seemed a cliche thing to say, but you don't have time to think about anything else other than staying alive, really.
That's pretty much the exact same thing that Lee said, didn't
he? 100%. Like he just jumps in rallycross. He hadn't actually done any track days either, and he just went, "Oh well, see what happens." Pretty much, and
you'll send it at some point, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. That's it. Yeah, I get the feeling. I think a lot of people just do that because it's like, well, am I going to do it? Oh, I'm not going to do it.
Oh, you've got to go. You've got to jump in the boat. You can't do it half-hearted. You're either going racing or you're not. And it's in hindsight, I probably should have been a lot more prepared. Many aspects when I look back and think, bloody hell, what were you doing? But it's all part of the learning curve. You can't know it all and go racing for your first time. So
true. Yeah, that's true. And I suppose that's why you have the licenses the way they are now as well. You've got to build up that experience before you can get into certain levels. Which makes a lot of sense, because if you go out in a stupidly quick car and somebody's on your inside or whatever's going on, the chances of it going wrong obviously heighten. You have to have that experience. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I suppose on the kind of same vein then, like, was there any point where you were sort of going through and you were just like the sort of that scary kind of moment? You've got somebody on your inside, or you're trying and you're not quite sure if you're going to make it, or like, is there anything that kind of jumps out as well, either early on or through your time?
Yeah, I mean, multiple times. That first race meeting at Mallory Park, it was a double header, so 2 15-minute races, and there was 2 red flags in each race, I think. So I ended up doing the first race. I ended up doing about 5 or 6 actual race starts once they'd red flagged it and pulled us all back round. And walking around the paddock after the race and looking at some of the cars, which were it had like you'd been to Stan Lake Arena and you were looking at the banger racing cars being back on the lorries, Mark II Golfs, which were crushed with the boot all the way up to the B pillar and things like that, where it backed it in down Devil's Elbow and all the rest. So, yeah, that was a bit of a realisation in many respects. After your first meeting, seeing so many cars being, pushed onto trailers in various states of disrepair.
Not exactly driving them home.
No, and I think a lot of people have been to a race meeting where there's been serious accidents and bits and bobs, and that kind of thing's always sort of makes you, not really make you sort of reassess it, but makes you realise it's dangerous. The more experience you get in the car, and there's plenty more times where you go, that could have been different.
Yeah, I suppose that's why you have the safety features that you do as well now. We can look around and see a lot of times, and if you look at like Club Motorsport, what I've realised, because I am a nerd and I read regulations for fun, because I'm weird. Like, there's no other reason for it, is that why would I'll just pick up random regulations and read them just to see what it is, and I'm like, don't know why I do that. But there's such a emphasis on safety, and it's for that reason. You don't want to. I 20, when was it? 16, 18, something. I followed some mates who were racing Whirl 100 motorbike racing.
Yeah. And
obviously, compared to a car, the safety features are quite different. And some very quite a sobering moment when you have the helicopter up on the top of Anglesey racetrack. Yeah. And it's everything shut down, and it does make you think, but you realise there's a reason for why things are set up like they are, and what that does, it enables us to go racing.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it wouldn't happen. And,
even when I first started, back in 2009, when the hands devices weren't mandatory, the under Nomex wasn't mandatory. You could go racing in a set of welly boots if you wanted to, no gloves, and you used to see plenty of people out there in, without gloves on and stuff, and it was just MSA rules at the time. I didn't, I've always sort of, seeing how quickly it can happen and quickly fires even on test days and stuff. I see people in race cars not wearing race suits and a full gear, and not risk it.
Yeah, definitely.
A worthwhile investment.
Yeah, and it's something that's going to last you as well. Well, within the dating and what have you. But yeah, and then I suppose the opposite side of that goes then. What was your, I suppose, most memorable moment? Like, what point did you go, oh wow, I'm doing this. This is incredible. Or do you have anything that sticks out?
Yeah, well, Britcar 2011, when we competed in that Mark III Golf run by Cadwell Motorsport. You know, Cadwell Motorsport's, you know, a synonymous name in club motorsport in the UK. More championships, you know, under that name than I've got, you know, fingers on my hands. And I went through my years in college, you know, looking at the VW Cup pictures of, you know, Rob Carvel, Ian Carvel, you know, aspiring to be like them. So for them to ask me and Kev, who also runs Fiesta Club Race with me, for them to ask us to go and race with them at the Britcar was, you know, quite a sort of realization that, you know, yeah, we're doing this, you know. And it was, again, certainly an eye opener, that first time driving a race car at night at Silverstone in, you know, a pretty prestigious race, or what was a prestigious race, that Britcar 24 hours. So definitely that was highlighting my racing career.
Yeah, and so I think you'd only been racing, what, 3 years at that point?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
well, it's a heck of a step up, and yeah, fair play to you. I'd imagine going into that kind of dusk moment as well, and the lights changing, and so many things will be kind of almost looking different, I suppose. And you think your brake markers, your turning points a lot of the time, or did you not really find that? Was it just you know exactly where you were going from repetition?
Yeah, I think after you know, sort of 10 or 15 hours of driving around it definitely got into a rhythm. But you know, those first few laps when you've got, you know, big GT, I mean, you, like I say, there's the speed differential between a proper, you know, what was essentially a GT2 car, that Eclipse Ferrari coming past you. You know, there was definitely a sense of seriousness about it as well. The first time I got in the car in qualifying, the throttle stuck open as well, so you know, it was a bit of a baptism of fire there, just rolling out the pits, like, right, Britcar gents, you know, got to be serious, you know, all eyes are on you type of thing, and the throttle sticks wide open. So
crazy,
no, the night time is an inexperience.
Definitely. I know Sam McGee was saying obviously he was in TDC round one he was in, and said it was way kind of going out on qualifying, and you were grouped in with some of the GT cars, the GT Cup. And it was just like, well, this is a bit different, isn't it? Crazy stuff. So I suppose as well, a question I like to ask people is, especially like UK, when you've obviously gone through your history, what have you found to be the most challenging track that you've gone on? Like one that you've had struggled with, or have kind of enjoyed but found technicality maybe?
I think the circuits I've probably disliked the most, and this is a bit of a controversial one, is Cadwell Park.
Right, yeah. He loves that shit.
Everyone loves going to Cadwell.
Yeah.
The AW, it's like a bike circuit. There's no, I mean, from a Trackday perspective, I can understand it's, you know, it's but it's difficult to get a rhythm around there. It's a very technical circuit. Yeah,
not easy to overtake. Not real, like say, it's so narrow.
No, and you know, I did a good few golf races there. The first time I was there, my engine expired on one of the first laps, so didn't have a good start of a relationship with that place. And then following times, I ended up on the podium there, so a bit of a mixed bag of results. But yeah, it's just a circuit I don't enjoy driving. It's a long way away from where I live as well, so if you have a bad day there, it's a long way home after.
Way home to console yourself, absolutely. I suppose on the flip side, then, what's your favourite track? What would you like jump at the chance to always drive?
Do you know what, Donington National Circuit? I think it's a really good rhythm circuit, plenty of elevation, really interesting.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, Snetterton 300, the flattest place on earth.
True.
Which is a really, you know, it's a really, really good circuit, real driver's circuit, I think. Snetterton 300, real, you know, it's technical, but you can really get a rhythm going around there. And I like Alton just because of that feeling of, you know, sort of old school UK circuit, which is, you know, which really bites you when you get it wrong, or can potentially bite you when you really get it wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Manchester originally, so I used to go to Alton quite a bit as a kid, and I don't know, I think that it's almost like nostalgia for me going there, round it, or seeing cars on it. That kind of feeling, I remember that sort of feeling the first time I ever saw it.
Yeah.
And I love Alton. I can't wait to get the beam around it, that's for sure. Well, when that comes, because, taking a while.
It will.
Bloody lockdown and shit, so I can't get to it. But that's my excuse anyway. I keep making new ones for him. But yeah, I suppose, keeping a little bit on the, the historic side, is there anything that you look back now and think, yeah, I'd probably wouldn't have done that, or I'd have changed, or from experience that, if you were chatting to your younger self starting out again, it's like a kind of advice you'd sort of say to them?
Yeah, I think I always aspired to do, you always wanted to do the next best thing than what you're doing, don't you? That's natural. That's human instinct. So, whilst competing in single make stuff and, hot hatch stuff, various different hatchback racing, all the rest, I think getting the opportunity to race more expensive machinery in a higher classes, etc., I think I actually enjoyed less because of the responsibility. Nothing to do with the, I enjoyed racing the E46 M3. What a fantastic vehicle, but at the same time, when you get to the point where you're insuring cars before you race, and the enjoyment tends to go out the window a bit. And whilst we were successful with it, it was on the sort of side of being too expensive for me. So when I got the opportunity again to go race Fiestas and stuff after I'd done the Jaguar and the M3 and stuff like that, it was like, right, I'm home again and I'm enjoying it. So I think. Yeah,
I was going to kind of say, like, how did you find your sort of way? Because obviously now you've got the Fiesta, you're doing a Trackday championship.
Yeah.
If you're looking at like club enduro, because you've done some club enduro, haven't you?
Some club enduro, yeah. How did we find ourselves? I mean, Kevin Glover, who I raced a Fiesta with, he's my best mate, and we go racing with a very similar sort of ethos. We've always done the same sort of thing. We raced the M3 together, we raced the Jag together, we were at Britcar together in the early days, and the Fiesta, when the opportunity to buy the Fiesta, because we raced it as an arrive and drive package for a couple of meetings. When the opportunity came to buy it, we sort of banged our heads together and thought, we can go racing in a way that we want to go racing, spend the money that we want to spend, and if it works, it doesn't. If not, then so be it. So it was an opportunity to sort of go racing the way we wanted to in many respects.
I must admit, like looking at the sort of the TDC and road sports and club enduro, the mix of cars, like you have some cars which are TCR kind of level cars, and then you've got not quite so spec, shall we say. Or then you've got your club guys who are like yourselves who have developed this car, and obviously you can see on your Instagram the development that's gone into it, which is awesome. I love it. And it was quite a good mix, I suppose, of not necessarily levels, but of cars. And somebody appreciating motorsport, it must be quite good series to sort of be driving in.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, when you're banging doors with ex Clio Cup cars in your Chevy Fiesta, it's a good one. It's a good feeling at the end of the day, and there's the rules and regulations. I think they've got very, very. I think they've got the rules and regulations very well done in the Trackday Championship. The power to weight ratios, and they manage it properly as well. It's all too often you see. Power to weight ratio classes, and they aren't managed properly, so it's easy to cheat. You get the impression, especially in Class D that we race in 125 horsepower per ton or whatever it is everyone's at that point, and it's it's great, but there's still a window for developing the car, and putting a bit of ingenuity behind it, which was the appeal to me, having raced in single make championships where the regulations are so tight. Once you built the car, there wasn't much room to develop it. So.
Yeah, and that's it. And I suppose, like I said, with those the classes, if you want, you can kind of work on the engine or up the game depending on what you want to do. And obviously, associated, I suppose, costs and everything come into that. But there's a lot of like that scope while keeping in what you know, I suppose.
Yeah.
And you know the car works, and you know the protocols, excuse me, which is really awesome. So, yeah, so you kind of got into that Fiesta. Why was it that you sort of chose, I suppose, the clubs that you did in terms of, was it MSV, TDC? Was there a particular reason for that, or was you just looking at keeping that kind of endurance style, a bit longer stints?
Yeah, I mean, again, having cut my teeth in sprint racing, you know, I enjoy sprint racing, still do. I enjoy the engineering challenge of endurance racing. You know, it's a different kettle of chips to throwing a car out there that's got to last 15 minutes. You need to think a lot more carefully about your setup, how the car's prepared. You know, things that go off, and managing temperatures and managing other situations within the car that, you know, you don't have to do so much in sprint racing. You know, you would never think in sprint racing having to manage gearbox temperatures, for example, whereas, you know, in a 3-hour race at Croft, you know, it's on your mind. So different driving style as well. But you know what, not so much in the Trackday Championship. It's pretty much a 45-minute sprint race.
So, that's all right. So, and you know, obviously you drive with two of you driving there. Was there a particular reason why you both? Obviously, it sounds like you've been racing for a long time together. Was there a kind of reason you got into that together? You know, in terms of two of you doing it, was don't split costs or able to? You just wanted to get into that endurance side of things.
Well, there's plenty of reasons. I mean, first and foremost, enjoy going racing and having you know, the environment in the paddock, and going racing with someone's always going to be more fun than doing it on your own. You know, financial, obviously. We split all our costs right down the middle. It's nice and easy that way. You know, we're both very, very similar in terms of driving style, speed, and approach, but we have different skill sets outside of the car, which is, you know, a very big factor. You know, Kev's basically anything electronical in terms of he's basically a car software engineer by trade. He writes he does all the mapping on the car. He did all the loom on the car. He works for a motorsport outfit in Peterborough called Jabba Sport.
Oh yeah,
he has his own.
Not exactly a small outfit either.
No. He's basically the software engineer there, and does all the things electronic on the car, power management,
Wizardry.
dash, the data login with GPS, all that kind of stuff, which is you know, way over my head a lot of the time. You know, I'm probably sort of more mechanically able in terms of car prep and fixing, rebuilding, that kind of thing. So in terms of both the skill sets coming together, it's really good.
Yeah, nice. And like I said, obviously, like you were saying, you're both kind of similar in the way you drive and approach things. Did you find anything in terms of having a car set up for the different, you know, for the pair with you, or even down to like the seating, or you got a similar sort of builds? Because if you take, say, like me and Andrew, are pretty flipping different. So, you know, shall we say, I need to lose a few pounds before I start racing to get that power to weight down.
We're quite a similar build, and seating position has never been an issue. So in that respect, it's a case of one jumps in, one jumps out. But you know, car setup is, you know, especially in front wheel drive, it's not often a case of what feels best. More often than not, you're setting a front wheel drive car up to, you know, go around corners and you're steering it down the straight. So you know, it's more often a case of compromising your driving style to whatever's quickest in terms of car setup. And I think we're both at a level where we understand that. And, you know, there's never a sort of, I'm not ever setting a car up at a compromise to myself to please Kevin, and vice versa. You know, it's a relatively easy car to drive. So, you know, we work on the setup together, definitely.
Yeah, nice. I like that. I suppose that comes in, like I say, you've been doing it years as well together, and I suppose is that understanding of each other which really plays. Yeah,
100%.
That's cool. So, the Fiesta then, because like I say, we're Andrew has an ST150. We're both very pro Fiestas. Like we very much like them. And I know Andrew's been thinking of the idea of getting into like TDC or Road Sports and Fiesta. So talk us through, I suppose, the initial choice of the car and then kind of what you've done without giving away too much, but or you've kind of done that over time and developed it.
Yeah, so
mainly because we'll just nick all the ideas anyway. And use it,
you don't seem to hide too much on the Instagram page. I mean, I've never been one to hide, not strictly speaking, but hide information or anything like that. I'm pretty sort of relaxed about that kind of thing. But we raced the car as an arrive and drive package with Brisky Racing initially, and they were well spec'd cars, being ex Fiesta Cup cars, so the decent cage, and they were all stripped back, seam welded, decent suspension, the Quaife gearbox, all that kind of thing. So, it was all extremely tired when we bought the car. But it had all the right bits, so we knew, okay, well, we can tidy it up, make it what we wanted to be.
Refresh it, I suppose.
It was a great base for it, and Richard Wheeler, gave us the car at a good price, so. We couldn't really say no, so it all started from there, really.
Nice, yeah. It's and they do like Andrew working on them. They seem like good cars to work on, and there's a lot of stuff out there. I think you can go rallying, like so much stuff for them, and rallying so much stuff from on track, circuit work, sprint, like whatever. So it kind of they do seem a good base, and when you've got that power to weight kind of categories as well, then there is a bit of room on the engine as well.
It's very much like a sort of modern day Mark 1, Mark 2 Golf type driving experience, but with a little bit more. It's just a bit more modern, isn't it? Really.
And they look good. I think they look good. And at the end of the day, you got to be something you like the look of.
Yeah, the bits are easy to come by, and it's cheap to work on. It's easy to work on. It's all very straightforward once you take it apart and look at what you've got there. So in that respect, it was a good choice for ease of maintenance, and there was plenty of potential in it to develop the car, which we sort of sat and talked about and figured out what we were going to do initially. So that's it. And what are your sort of plans with it for, like, obviously this year you're doing TDC, I assume you're doing full season? Yeah, full season of TDC, Class D. Unfinished business from last year where unfinished business from last year where we won the championship and then got it taken away from us due to a questionable move from myself, hands up. We won't go into that, but I ended up with points on my license. I managed to keep a clean racing license for that amount of time, and then have some points slapped on the last race and the championship taken away. I wasn't particularly popular when I went back to the pit. So, that's the plan. Development wise, we've got some good companies on board with us this year. Not a shameless plug, but it's massively helped us out in terms of moving the car forward with some good bits. Plans are just we're moving from AST dampers, we're moving over to a Nitron, which we've helped Nitron develop a kit for the car. Good
kit from Nitron as well. A lot of race cars using them.
Yeah, it will be a very good kit once it's finished and we've got that on. We've done a lot of aero work on the car in terms of splitter and air dam, and working out proper brake ducting and heat management at the front of the car. Power steering, coolers, gearbox coolers, big radiators, oil coolers. The important bits of making sure the car gets to the end of a race when you're pushing hard for 45 minutes.
45 minutes or more.
But I mean, we need to do some more development at the back of the car in terms of geometry and things like that. But the car's in its in their exactly the right window power to weight ratio with its fresh engine. So basically,
so that's quite the exciting thing about it as well. Like it's not costing you it's not in that high of power to weight where the engine's costing you a fortune and you're rebuilding it every time. But there's so much other aspects that you can work on, you can fine tune and adapt and test. That it's must be quite an exciting sort of feeling when you're kind of getting things and you can see that improvement in it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the new engine was I mean, I've not built a Ford engine before. Compared to even early 90s Volkswagen stuff, it has a very disposable Dagenham feel about it. You know, nothing's keywayed or locations in terms of engine timing. Whilst it's, you know, obviously looks like it's an engine designed for performance, it's, you know, it's a throwaway engine. Nothing's you can't really get many of the parts from Ford for it. You know, it's all aftermarket stuff. But it was an interesting learning process putting that engine together. Definitely.
Yeah, I like how like kind of obviously as you've started, you have sort of worked on the cars yourself, and you can tell you've got that love of just the whole thing. Which I think is very much like me and Andrew. Like, you know, we can look at a car and you appreciate some of the kind of, I suppose sometimes things you'd overlook on it, and you notice, and you're like, oh, how we've, like you say, how you ducked into your brakes. So many little bits that you don't really think. Well, I do anyway. You know, you don't really think about.
Quite funny you say that about duct into brakes, actually, because I've got just a standard duct to air filter, which actually snapped off last week, and we're dragging along the floor, so to tear that out of a day.
Yeah, the thing is, I like to make changes based on well, first and foremost, based on data. I mean, the car's pretty you know, it's able to capture a lot of data through its ECU master systems on board, data logging and all the rest. And, you know, it's good to see actual tangible difference from, you know, when you've changed something, you know, even, you know, ducting air filters, like you say, things like that, to, you know, to log in let temperatures and work out how long it's taken to cool back down after you've been stopped, etc., etc. And, you know, really sort of digging down into the detail like that. I really enjoy that aspect of the engineering of it.
Yeah, that's that's my kind of level of nerdiness. Probably not Andrew so much. That's where I'd be like pouring hours over it. So I quite like electronics and what have you. So I mean, obviously, say like you're starting out in racing, you're going into something like, you know, Trackday Championships, and you kind of get into that. What do you think is the kind of key things on the car? You know, obviously you'll have your safety aspect done. And you'll have, you know, your basic suspension and tyres and what have you. But what kind of things would you, I suppose, if you were starting at Fiesta again, initially be kind of looking at? Is it more reliability or
I think people get too lost in trying to make the car fast. You know, building it with, you know, exactly on the power to weight ratio, and, you know, having to have the best suspension possible and all the rest. I think, you know, driving a car flat out for 45 minutes needs the car needs to be prepared for that. So you know, your cooling packages and your management of heat, brakes, you know, brakes after, you know, if you go, you know, even doing track days and bits and bobs, you know, after, you know, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, what your pedals feeling like, you know, could you do another 20 minutes with, you know, so it's all those reliability and endurance factors that you wouldn't get in normal sprint racing. I mean, once you've got that right, I think everything else sort of develops around that package, really.
No, makes a lot of sense.
One of the things that don't know what I was going to say now. Actually, gone.
Fair enough. Well, yeah, I think that's one of the things initially that you do over, like you say, you get so hooked on. You want the best of this, you want the best of that, you want the power, or you want all this, and like I say, you've raced, you know, like you say, with the M3s and what have you, some very, very quick cars. And then you've gone into like the Class D 125, is it? Put on, but yeah, there's so much development that you can still do before then chasing the power. And I think as well, you're going to get a lot more out of it as a driver and development as well. And I suppose costs to some degree.
There's so much more time in chassis stuff and being prepared and making the car consistent over 45 minutes than there is in having 5 more horsepower to say that you're on the power to weight ratio limit. So much,
and then not getting to the end of 45 minutes of flat out driving.
You know, it's no good if the car's quick, ballistic for 15 minutes, but then you're holding on to it and managing a heat management problem and having to let off and all the rest. You know, it's no good.
I suppose that's something that Fiesta's pretty good like, as a standard from as well. It's good at, it's not good quick in a straight line, but it's good through corners and stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely not quick in a straight line.
Yeah, I know that.
Definitely not quick in a straight line.
Yeah, I like it. I was saying to him that like the E36 I've got when we're doing some track days, it's like similar sort of power. So I think it's 193 as standard. The fucking 2.8 litres in it only makes 193 horsepower. It's like, what the fuck? But it's like that heavy and that much of a belt that I'll just be like, yeah, trying to cut anywhere, I'll just be nightmare. So hence me and it are going on a diet.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
What the Fiesta lacks in power, it's certainly, you know, it's handy in the corners and it's great on the brakes, even with standard brakes. I can't understand it when people say they, you know, think that the car's under braked to standard, you know, and I think, you know, we did a 3-hour racing Croft on standard size brakes and some day pads, and they lasted, you know, 3-hour endurance race on the limit, and they lasted okay. So, you know,
yeah, that kind of says a lot, I think, for the car. If you are looking at kind of getting into club racing, it's not a bad shout.
You don't need £1,000 brake kits. You don't need all, you know, you don't need any. I mean, we still run a off the shelf Ford, you know, ST150 setup on the front.
That's what I think. It's what you're running it.
It doesn't need any more than that.
Yeah, that's more than good enough for what
if you're finding the limits. Yeah, if you're finding the limits of that brake setup, you're either trailing the brakes or doing something drastically wrong.
Yeah, no, I think, I think it says a lot of that to the car as well. And good choice. But I mean, plus it just also looks awesome. I love the things. You might have guessed by now because I'm always saying it. I always say it's been about every 2 weeks, like contemplating getting one. Don't know why, just like the look of the damn thing. But yeah, no, very cool.
They're probably about the bottom of the depreciation curve now. You can pick them up.
Yeah,
probably
true.
like mine.
That's it. Yeah, but I suppose I think everybody now looks at hatchbacks and they look at 200 horsepower standard or more, and you know, or you look at your people go to might say a 172 or 182 Clio or a Type R, and there's the ST150, just sort of doing its thing, buying its time.
I mean, the Type R's are a lot more expensive, they're a lot heavier, a lot more complicated. You know, the Clios are, you know, having had one, yes, they're a lot quicker in a straight line and probably a bit quicker in the corners, but I mean, would you want to be in a big crash in a Clio?
No, probably not. It's a fair point, isn't it?
Places to be.
Yeah.
I learned tin can. It's quite funny. I learned to drive in my dad's Clio 172 Cup, which were
Wait, learn to drive in the Cup, yeah?
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing to have on your driving CV.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Mine was a Toyota Style at 1.3. Non-turbo, wasn't the fun one. It was more like the grandma had kind of one. But yeah, that was a little bit different, I suppose. But no, it was all right. I think the more the micro at the time as well, not like the proper square old one that I think have just all rusted and weird things.
The horrendous looking one.
Yeah, basically.
You sure you want to be putting that out on the internet?
Yeah, probably. I look very different now. Nobody will recognise me. I used to not get into like clubs and stuff because my driving license was so different. I had to get my actual bouncer's license out to show them and go, look, that's actually a recent picture of me. But yeah, that happened a lot actually. So like I say, it sounds obviously very still exciting after so many years. You still seem to be getting a lot of excitement, a lot of enjoyment out, which I think says it as well for championships you're racing in, the car that you're racing in. Which I think is really cool because I didn't realise you'd done quite so much either. Obviously you've done a bit, but I didn't realise you'd done so much, and that's really, I think it's awesome to kind of see that you still have that passion.
I love it. Pub racing. I mean, grassroots pubs racing. You know, in any grassroots MSVR 750 Motor Club. You know, anything like that is, you know, the vibe around the paddock. You know, once you start racing in the championship, start meeting the people, start the vibe around the paddock. It's just a night. It's the social side of it is is as good as the racing side. It's whilst it's not cheap, it's affordable motorsport. It's good fun.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, is there anything that you would sort of want to see changed in club racing? Or anything you think could improve it moving forward?
I think if you'd asked me probably a couple of years ago, I'd say management of rules and regulations and enforcement of. But I think even that's now at a stage where you're regularly seeing championships of rolling roads, checking horsepowers, and checking things like that. So I think even that's that would be that probably was my only gripe a couple of years ago. I think everything's so well run now and put together, and the organisers do such a good job, especially MSVR. They're I've raced with a good few organisers, and MSVR are absolutely fantastic in what they do.
That's it. I think with like you're saying, for MSVR and 750, they both seem so on point. Everything's. There doesn't really seem any grey areas. The regulations are kind of there. It's allowing you to develop the car, but at the same time, it's keeping the fairness, I suppose. Element there. And then if you look at like the 750 with their coverage as well, their streaming.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
They're really, I think pushing club racing, which I think is only going to help it. More people are going to get involved. Hopefully more potential like sponsors will want to be involved as well, as it improves.
That's exactly right. With with the current day and age, I think manufacturers especially are realising that social media in terms of people advertising their products on Instagram and the like is a better way to spend their marketing budgets instead of putting adverts in magazines and stuff that no one reads anymore. That's
it. It's becoming like you say, social media, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever that crap is that my missus watches all the time.
It's a phone charger. Hang on.
Yeah, no worries, mate. No worries.
I had planned on doing this on my laptop, but that idea went away, didn't it?
You got the technology or skills of we have, because I got like a new piece.
I thought my technology skills were alright, but
yours are because they generally save us.
Throw a race car together and all that kind of stuff. But, turn on a laptop and make the camera work. Absolutely no way.
I don't know. That's all right. But so I've never got up to like 52 minutes, which is has gone quickly. I suppose the other thing I always am interested by, but I suppose this comes from my other interest in terms of strength and conditioning and what have you, is did you find any physical aspects of, especially starting out, quite surprising, and especially doing endurance work with like the fatigue element or anything like that? Have you ever come across that? It's an odd question that I always ask people.
Yeah, I don't think. Physically, you have to be up, a certain level of fitness. I think it's more mentally challenging, keeping concentration levels up and keeping that focus, and not getting emotional and angry behind the wheel. It's all easy things to do. I think the emotional challenge is a lot more than the physical, but definitely helps to be in shape. That's for sure. Looking back to the early 20s, getting in and out of race cars after 20 minutes, and it wasn't a bother. I get out of 20-minute racing now and have to be helped out the car like.
That's it.
No, definitely more mentally challenging, especially when you're not only racing the car, but you're engineering the car, you're doing the logistics, you're doing all the beforehand stuff, you're prepping the car. The whole picture is mentally taxing.
Yeah, that's it. You can't just get out and go sit down and that's it. You've also got to think of everything else that you're doing there, and obviously the two of you working on it, and a lot going on. But no, that's awesome. And I really like your approach club racing, and like I say, even going on the Britcar level and everything else, and the club enduros and TDC and 750. It's good to hear as well, like the passion that you have and the enthusiasm for club racing.
Oh, it's great.
And, I think that's going to is what attracts people. And you know, of everybody I speak to, and because I chat a lot of shit to a lot of people. Yeah, no one knows who's laughing. Yeah. And you know, a lot of people they kind of have the same thing. I think club racing in the UK has really kind of pushed itself up. And I suppose, like you say, there's no cheap motorsport, but there's that entry level motorsport, and you can still go and have such an incredible time and learn so much and develop so much. It's cool.
100%.
So I suppose finally you're going to get a quick fire round. So I did this first with Lee that we did as a kind of finisher, which I always find quite interesting, just because I think it's interesting. So first car.
First car was a Mark II Golf 1.3 5-door in Tornado Red.
You like your V-dubs, don't you?
It was shite. It did me well. I did 40,000 miles in that car.
That's all right.
I sold it for more than what I bought it for, so...
It can't have been that bad, then.
No. That's all right, guys.
Blind buyer.
Yeah. What's your favourite car?
My favourite car. Oh, that's a tough one. I currently have a Mark II. It's a bit of an odd one again. Mark II Sirocco.
Nice. Yeah. Okay.
One of my favourites. Yeah, I've got a 20 valve turbo powered Mark II Sirocco. So that's a good fun bit of kit.
Very nice. And if you could take that car anywhere to drive, where would you go?
Having been lucky enough to drive Stelvio and places like that, which is full of lycra-clad bikers clogging it all up.
I've heard that before from people.
Yeah, I enjoy nothing more than just my local roads that I know well. You know, it doesn't have to be a special place, but just, you know, a place where you feel comfortable and enjoy the road, really. And
that element of getting out and feeling that. I don't know. I always get this like weird feeling of freedom to some degree.
Yeah.
Like when you're out. Yeah. Then slightly moving away from cars, and this is where I possibly judge you or possibly don't. Three current favourite songs.
3 current favourite songs.
Or any songs, in fact.
I get a lot of watching a lot of YouTube. I mostly just end up shazamming obscure stuff off of my YouTube channels. I've got a really eclectic taste of music. I could be listening to metal or old school hip hop or anything like that. So I'd like to elaborate more, but
it's one of the things, and I put the question in because I hate it when people ask me what's my favourite genre of music or what's my favourite song. It's like I genuinely can't tell you. I don't know what I'll feel from like 1 hour to the next. And like you say, it could be literally going some old school hip hop, drum and bass, down to like country, to like some Metallica or something. Like you don't know.
Could be listening to People Under Stairs, could be listening to Tool, could be listening to London Electricity, could be listening to anything, you know? Yeah,
exactly. Good. Favourite film?
I'm a big Denzel Washington fan, so Training Day.
Yeah. He's classic. I always think with that film, like, it's classic, but you just want to hate him so badly in it. But it's at the same time, it's like awesome.
Man on Fire as well.
I was going to say Man on Fire is, I think, just incredible
Underrated.
film of him. Yeah, he doesn't get as much love as the other films, and it's incredible.
This is clearly where I'm too young for this. I don't even films that are.
Netflix, so they're all Netflix. I'm pretty sure.
Or when you finally things calm down and you get your ass over, I'm just going to put it on and tough. You're going to have to watch it.
Okay.
You might get like my missus crying a bit at the end because it does get a bit emotional. So just warning you there. I don't know how sure he is. Putting it out there. Go-to takeaway.
Ooh, I'm gonna say. Oh, it's a tough one between pizza and Chinese. I'll go pizza. Pizza's my favourite.
Good call. Do you put pineapple on your pizza?
Oh, don't be sorry.
Good. That's all right. We can still. I can still talk to you. It's cool.
Stay.
Yeah, good. Just you got to put it out there sometimes, haven't you? You just got to check that people that you think are all right are actually okay and not got an issue with them.
Yeah, should have asked that before we started. You would have
had should have done it. What about a preview question? Are we actually going to do this or not? Favourite place you've been?
I love being in Germany. Germany's a great place. Munich, Berlin. Berlin's probably my favourite city in Europe. Spend a lot of time in Australia. The other half's family. Lot of family live out there. We got married out there, so I'd say west coast of Australia or Germany.
Very nice. Anywhere you've wanted to go that you haven't been yet?
I want to do a lot more of America. I haven't been to the west coast of America properly and done that yet. So
yeah, I must admit, I think west coast. My missus has family over there, and sort of some of the Jamaican family that moved over there. I keep wanting to kind of hit that west coast. Definitely. I think she's got some in east coast as well, but we'll road trip it one year. That'll be all right. A hobby other than racing then?
Mountain biking.
Oh, nice. Yeah, probably very good for your racing as well, for your fitness and your endurance and everything.
Yeah, mostly just
as long as you don't fall off. Yeah, true. I can't say. And one fact that we wouldn't have guessed about you.
One fact that you wouldn't have guessed about me.
Yeah. Which could be very embarrassing or not, depending how much you give away, I suppose.
One fact. One fact that could be embarrassing, you say?
Anything if you want.
If you want to.
In my last job interview, I wore odd shoes and still got the job.
Legend. That's all I can say to that. Well done.
I only noticed when I was walking across the car park and my shoes were making odd sounds on the concrete.
That's I think that deserves a round of applause. I appreciate that. I very much appreciate that. And well, it's been fantastic talking to you. Thank you very much, Henry. We'll be following you throughout the season, and hopefully when things open up, we'll be down and seeing you over there. It's been very, very good. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Appreciate it.
Yeah, hopefully as well, we'll have you back on again sometime. We can talk through very much more. So and yes, ST150s. Let's go. We love them.
Cheers, gents.
Thank you very much, mate.
See you later, mate. Cheers.